a freebie in that you picked your thermal first, and that's gotta be good down the line. So let's see if DNS can help out in that regard here. As in the top right hand side for Root Gaming and Goat and the gang, it is DNS.
In the bottom left is the green Protoss. It is Showtime.
It's Showtime.
Yeah, I always do it with a particular like accent, I guess, because I always think of the opening of Paprika, where literally like a guy gets out of a clown car, and I mean basically the Japanese accent, because who watches anime, dubbed? That's absurd. And he goes, "It's Showtime," or I think it's actually the main character, so it's a she. But the point is, that's always what I think of. But basically, no one has ever watched Paprika, and even if you have, that's a pretty obscure reference.
Yeah, I can't connect that to that reference. I like the theme song that they chose for him that he uses now on his stream, and I think it's his main sub alert that is Showtime. I love that one. That's what I think about.
I actually don't know what that one is. I've watched Showtime stream, but maybe I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, and DreamHack. In DreamHack, they had a video of Showtime, and then during the video, it had like some weird song that was like, "Hey, Showtime."
Oh, I think I remember you guys talking a lot about that. I don't know if I was hosting and just not paying attention, or I wasn't casting that day or something, but that is not the song that sounds familiar. It's you guys bantering about it. So when I came in, you were like, "Yeah, it was a cute little intro." I was like, "Yeah, totally. I know what it is."
Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna have pretty standard openings here. 2 gates on either side. And yeah, just a matter of what units are gonna pop up. It looks like it's gonna be 1 Stalker to start for Showtime and a Sentry. Stalker Sentry on the other side.
Very, I guess, typical European PvP openers. The only thing that would make it maybe a little more typical is if this was a map where 1 Gateway Expand is actually more popular. But of course, we still have, pretty much there's like max packs who always 1 Gates expands, and then there's experimentation, shall we say, with the other ones. But, Korean PvP, crazy fast, crazy fun, crazy games. European PvP, obviously they have their proxies. They have their 1-base Stargates, as we see from Showtime, because this Nexus is blocked anyways. But, Stalker Sentry openers, what else is new?
Yeah, not much else going on. So both players choosing to go for kind of like the faster ways of scouting each other, as Showtime has chosen not to reveal his Sentry to kill the pylon a little bit faster. But oddly enough, in spite of that pylon block, his Nexus is also faster, and his Stargate is faster. I'm not sure what's going on here.
That is kind of funny, but it basically he had another Stalker built. I was gonna say he should have built 2 more Stalkers. The third one just popped, so he's gonna be able to provide a little bit of aggression. I ultimately think that it's quite. Well, actually, the hallucination's not going to see this move out. So if the move out happens, a shield battery gets built, then I think Showtime takes the lead basically. But he might actually lose some of his frontline units, and then his Oracle is less successful because his opponent did actually open up with a Sentry.
Yeah, but at the same time, he followed up with extra sentries as well. So yeah, I was very scared of DNS moving out on the map because this Oracle would have had a free time against the sentries, though he is dropping that shield battery now in the main. And yeah, that should be enough to defend.
Yeah, I mean, DNS maybe, as I said, could have gotten the Sentry from Showtime if he had actually pushed. But it is kind of a, it's a really tight opportunity where the shield battery's not done or the 3rd unit hasn't popped out type of situation. So DNS, I think, playing it nice and safe, really safe too, because the shield battery, of course, was put down. But that means that Showtime kind of has the stronger, I guess, potential, in my opinion, which is having double Oracle, right? So obviously DNS gets a faster blink, and there's a lot to be said about that when that finishes up. But right now, with double Oracle, there's a chance that Showtime gets 2, 3, 2, 3, that type of thing, by killing the probes, gaining a bit of a lead.
Yeah, but DNS has done a good job with positioning so far. This Adepts could be dangerous, however. But there's 2 Stalkers, I believe, in the main. A lot of the rest of the army of DNS here had the natural expansion as the Adepts are going to try to displace the units, but actually they end up running towards most of the units of DNS, so it's kind of safe shelter. 4 probes have fallen, but that is perfectly fine, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fine. It is just one of those things, again, though, that, everything looks fine until suddenly you realize that you've been 5 probes consistently down or something like that. Then you're like, oh no, maybe this is too much. But I can't see anyone else deflecting the oracles better, right? Like, I don't know how you would...
Yeah.
Even if you focus fired them immediately, then the adepts would have gotten those probe damages anyways. A shield battery in the natural. I guess that's the only thing that could have been improved, right?
Yeah, I guess that could have been pretty good, but he had so many units there that it's difficult to fault him for that. I do love the stasis here for Showtime, and this is a very daring third expansion, seeing as the Oracles didn't do a lot. He sacrificed 2 of his units, so DNS should and does have the larger army, does pick off one of the Oracles as well as he moves on forward. And I think there's a real opportunity here for DNS to do some damage, but Showtime already has a lot in position too.
Yeah, this could be coming down to force fields, though. Like, Showtime knows this is a difficult position as long as his shield battery's not up. So this, he knows it's a problematic position. The shield battery gets canceled, and I think the next is going to be canceled as well. So this would be a victory for DNS. Showtime's going to try and save it. He thinks he can do it with the Stalker Micro, and maybe he can, but more reinforcements are coming for DNS.
Could blink forward aggressively for DNS. I would like that, and he's gonna do that. And this is huge, actually. After taking that, the shield battery, DNS could be doing it right here, right now. I'm surprised that Showtime stays around for a couple of more snipes onto the Stalker. Shield battery overcharge spent in the natural expansion. 1 more probe will fall. And now DNS has the option to just go back and deny this third expansion. This is a wonderful start for the Frenchman.
Yeah, that's actually really good for DNS. The shield battery not being done is the real kicker. The shield battery's done. You can put your army on the front of the shield battery, so if they dive for it, obviously they take a lot of damage. And then you get warp-ins, because they can only target one thing, pylon, shield battery, or your units. But it not being done was actually kind of catastrophic. Showtime, probably, hindsight 2020, probably should just cancel the Nexus when he had the opportunity. And then said, okay, that sucks, I'm a little bit behind, but let's see what can happen. Now, by trying to save it, losing the army, then losing what was a 80% done Nexus, he's got to make a risk. And I do like his risk. It's double expansion and hoping that DNS never scouts the 4th.
Yeah, I do like it as well. It's pretty good because DNS should know or think that he has the economic lead right now. So if his strategy, his adaptation to that is just going to be to sit kind of passively and look to absorb an attack or play with an advantage, that's going to backfire. So it's on DNS to scout. Props to him as well for clearing the stasis ward and taking the 3rd while all of that was going on. And yeah, again, I think very difficult to fault Showtime because DNX actually reinforced with 3 Stalkers warped in on the other side of the map, which is a long way to go and a long way to plan ahead that you might be able to turn the tides with that.
Yeah, very right about that. Without those 3 Stalkers at that opportune moment, Showtime does hold. So that's a very good point. And a lot of people wouldn't bother because they'd say, okay, this is only a temporary thing. I'm never going to win with this. I'm looking for a lead.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So DNS made the right choice for sure. But even without this secret 4th base, this is one of those funny situations where it seems like this great win for DNS. But because of some of the Oracle damage earlier on, Showtime had already gained a decent surplus of minerals. So again, I kind of wish that he had just let the Nexus go and replanted it as fast as he could have. But even without that, and a 400 mineral Nexus that is a risk, that 4th base, Showtime's kind of okay. He's got a good supply, he's got a good probe count. His +1's a little bit behind, but not as much as I was fearing. And his charge is going to finish up in time to deflect this push, which we'll see. DNS might actually get a really good position. That's definitely the worry right now.
Yeah, that stasis ward is what worries me. And actually, DNS, I think, blinked home forward with 1 Stalker, only activating it with 1 Stalker, I think. Yeah, beautiful job from him, anticipating that could be happening. And you say Showtime's gonna have enough, but I'm not so sure. If we look at the army supplies, it's well in favor of DNS, and that is the advantage that he has accrued. If he doesn't manage to do anything here, if he is deflected, then it will be Showtime with all the cards, holding all the cards and just in a wonderful position, but this is not gonna be an easy attack to hold.
Fortunately, DNS is taking a while to build those Archons, so +1 should finish for Showtime, plus all the shield batteries, plus overcharge. I mean, that should make up for about a 15 army supply difference. The Archons are very scary, but, them trying to force them into a situation, forcing them through the natural, that's when you can kind of focus fire them down. DNS's Zealots don't get as much done. And I still think that Showtime is okay. It's obviously worrying, and DNS is thinking that maybe I don't have to push this, because if I push and I lose, I lost my lead. I have a faster 4th Nexus. So and usually would not blame him DNS for that, right? But he doesn't know about Showtime's fourth.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And also the angle that DNS takes to go towards this attack is assuming that Showtime would retake the same third. And if he had, it's a difficult position after he breaks through that stasis ward with a single stalker. But because the third isn't there, it becomes very awkward where he has to attack into the natural or go past it into the third. And with greater stalker numbers, Showtime can kind of kite and tax a lot of these zealots on the way in. So yeah, really well done from Showtime, who has had a stasis ward protecting each one of his bases. Oh, DNS knows, or he suspects.
He's gonna find out, but I think it's past the point of being fearful that it's found out. It's still an awkward base to defend. It's definitely not the usual fourth base, but if DNS goes, oh man, I'm actually not as far ahead as I thought, and then kind of, there's a loud rotation as DNS backs home, maybe he waits for some disruptors, then Showtime can move over to his fourth and then pressure DNS's fourth. And we are talking about a disruptor lead for Showtime currently, which if he does get DNS on his back foot, would be really useful. I'm actually kind of glad for DNS's sake that he doesn't pull back, even after the kind of shock scout, and he's even going for an attack in the main base. This is a bit bold.
I like this because it's a very big army of stalkers that has to be responded in numbers as well, and that frees up the zealots to go into the third potentially. So as DNS spots the army here of Showtime, he should start moving the rest of his army potentially down. But maybe he just feels like he's done enough damage. No, his stalkers are gonna get sort of trapped, and the rest of his army's not really doing anything.
Yeah, and it's going to try and go into the third base, but there's a stasis trap and disruptors. The disruptors, at least two of them, should pop out. Yeah, there you go. So unfortunately, can't kill the Archon because it's actually stasis trapped, but that means that Showtime is held. And the disruptor count, well, maybe not going to hold, actually, but 4 shield batteries from earlier on are going to be really hard to bust, even though Showtime is missing some of the complexity of his army, right? No charge lots, no Archons, and now his disruptors are gone. It's just such a really tough position to break. A Protoss basically on 2 bases, because we're talking about the natural. That is always hard to break.
Yeah, for sure. And DNS is going to be forced to recall, but getting those 3 disruptors is massive stills. I think that's what he went in for. When he sees the shield battery overcharge, he disengages, but now it's DNS with the disruptors. So the potential to siege onto that 4th base that he is very close to, while his own 4th base is also a place that is very important for him to defend. So I think situating his army where he is and just playing to the right side of the map is a wonderful choice here from DNS. And these disruptors could be absolutely deadly.
Yeah, right about that. You're right about that. They're both on double disruptors, however, so, I mean, unless it goes really poorly right here, right now, the assumption is, Jesus, is that Showtime will actually get to, not an equal number of disruptors, perhaps, but, if he gets to 5, I feel like that's all fair game, and you're just kind of hoping someone really mismicros the disruptor.
Yeah, a little bit late was... Oh! DNS to fire the additional 2 disruptor shots. I think that he should have protected that disruptor faster, but great presence of mind from Showtime, knowing exactly how many stalkers he needs to move forward, and that he is going to be able to kill the disruptor before he gets its shot off, or she. So, yeah, I mean, good stuff from either side. This game is still very much in the open.
I think the disruptor has, a male voice, but I think it's a robot anyways, so...
Yeah, it's a robot.
It's like a probe. Anyways, Oracle's going to come in kind of handy, as long as you keep it alive. Can be difficult to do, but Revelation, actually, if you can get it, is so important in this PvP. You're still going to have to do your due diligence as far as blinking a Stalker forward, no matter who you are, unless your observers are just chilling over armies, but it's still good to have. Disruptors now pinning Showtime back is really the problem, and Disruptors actually are they're no place to retreat. That makes me really worried. Nexus has to be given up. Though. Showtime finally starting to shoot some of his own disruptor shots, but he did have to give up that Nexus.
Yeah, and that's pretty good. On the other side, Showtime is going to attempt at a Rambai of Swords at the 4th of DNS, but there is static defense there for him to kind of fall back with the rest of his army, so he should be okay. Deflects that attack. And yeah, this is a very, very tense game. It's going to come down to big shots here on the disruptors.
Yes, exactly. Showtime... replacing his 5th lickety split. He's also trying to go up to Stargate, so they're both actually thinking that it's time to move on to Stargates. It's always a dangerous call. You make this massive tech swap with really expensive capital ships, and you could still get overwhelmed on the ground. So that's the scary part. But obviously, if you get there first and you get there safely, then you should have the lead.
Yeah. So
oh God!
No! That's huge! Oh, and another snipe. This was incredible from Showtime.
DNS even tried to shoot one of his disruptors, but it was actually one that was hotkeyed back at home. So he doesn't. Oh no, the blink forward! Jesus Christ! Please no. And they both go into carriers, by the way. So neither one of them know that they've already transitioned, but it is the general flow of PvP. They might be thinking about it.
Oh damn. Yeah, for sure. And I was gonna say, if DNS wants to sit in that position, I would have liked for him to break the rocks behind him. Exactly what he's doing now, but while he was on the high ground, just so that he would have more room to fall back against disruptor shots. Didn't happen, and he ends up eating massive disruptor shots. Now DNS is in a lot of trouble, as Showtime has disruptors in a good position to siege. There is no saving this base.
And it's really hard for DNS to say, oh, well, I guess I'll go for a base trade, because he would already be starting it so late. And there's no guarantee that Showtime doesn't have 5 disruptors also back at home, which would be hard to break even if they were alone. So DNS kind of just had to take that. And now he's going to try and get some revenge in the middle of the map by the looks of things.
Okay, gets a disruptor. Yeah, that's something. Not going to be enough just yet. Vision is super important in this type of game as well. So both players very diligent about sniping each other's observers. As DNS continues on disruptor production, but also a mothership being added to his army, where Showtime is going into carriers right away.
You do have some SAC defense.
One cannon only, though.
Yeah, only one. I mean, obviously he knows about it, so that's the time bot. The DTs are going to get a lot of probe damage, no doubt about that, but they're also going to scout the carriers. That is kind of nice. Maybe DNS can reevaluate his position afterwards, or he just double downs on the carriers, either way. But Showtime thinks he can clean this up with reinforcements, which he's usually right about. He's going to go for the throat. He's going to go for the disruptors. Now, disruptors are going to be hot in his tail, so there might be a recall in Showtime's future. But if he can do a lot of damage while this is happening, then more power to him.
Yeah, this is so difficult for DNS because, again, the disruptors are so positional. They're kind of like tanks, but they move. And at this point, I mean, he has a position that's going to be incredibly difficult to breach for DNS, incredibly difficult to attack into. The carriers are going to try to have a save, but they have to be careful with the blink, so they're kind of hugging the high ground. And I'm actually somewhat surprised by the recall here.
I definitely think he wanted to get all of his disruptors out. I mean, he could have had almost a flawless retreat if all of his disruptors had been recalled, and then the stalkers obviously blink away. And you don't know what else is hiding. Because I do think if Showtime had the map vision, he sees what is still an opportunity to go to the right without being disrupted. No! Yes! Then he continues. But I don't mind his retreat.
I mean, hard to mind anything. At this point, Showtime is in a commanding position. He has a massive army lead. He has the better economy, the better army composition, arguably. The mothership is the only thing that you could call in favor of DNS at this point. Need some massive disruptor shots.
Yeah, and he's already used so many of them, none of them being massive. Revelation obviously reveals half of the army. I mean, it's kind of difficult to count the disruptor shots when DNS has 6, but you don't necessarily need to risk a big old blink. You do exactly what Showtime does, hover around the edges, kill his economy, and then eventually Showtime can win. With capital ships, actually, you could just force the issue with carriers and Tempests. Oh, apparently the DTs killed the fleet beacon.
That's good.
So a little bit longer on the capital ships.
Yeah, and there's Tempest on the way for DNS. That is a cool answer. One of the carriers will get sniped. But it's not enough just yet. DNS needs to get maxed and needs to get maxed on an army that somehow is better than Showtime's. And then he will have somewhat of a win condition in spite of being so far behind now in economy as well.
Right. He's behind in every department. He's behind in upgrades by 2, actually, because Showtime fit in a shield upgrade, about to fit in +2 shields. And he's behind in the economy. What he is trying to do, though, is get Tempest. And Tempest, technically, you know, the rock, paper, scissors of Protoss late game Stargate units. You know, Tempest are supposed to be carriers. The only reason they don't is when they don't effectively use their range. The carrier's going to top of them, the interceptors stay on the Tempest, and the Tempest are glass cannons. So it is the best hope possible for DNS, but there's other problems as well.
This would be one of them, as one of his last remaining bases is going to get taken down. And at this point, DNS says, okay, I'm just going to go for a base trade. But I mean, it's so late to make that decision. I wouldn't have minded that earlier in the game, but at this point there's just so much real estate for Showtime that it's going to be very difficult for DNS to make chaos work in his favor.
Do you like the way DNS split up his army, though? He's got a pretty mobile army. I mean, Tempests are a little slow, but pretty mobile army going for the base trade, and the Disruptor's back at home. So he's effectively stopping Showtime from entering into the base. That said, the carriers could just focus fire them down eventually, so it's not foolproof.
Yeah, it's difficult to make work. There's still an observer here for Showtime. I do like what he did, DNS that is, but yeah, the carriers are the big problem. And I mean, Showtime is just looking like he's got this one in the bag. I'm not sure what DNS can do at this point. I'm sure the picture is showing the other areas. There's DTs now here, so maybe with the recall, if he gets a full cleanup. So many disruptors, though.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult. DNS could theoretically win kind of both fights, if you will, the air fight and the ground fight. But it's just so unlikely. He'll either lose both or lose one, and that's still going to be too much. And Showtime has the he has the economy, although he does not have the production. DNS was absolutely correct to go for the Stargates. I mean, go for the main, and maybe the Stargates weren't there, but they were, so great find. And the DTs still aren't being cleaned up, so that's more production that Showtime's losing. So when you go for the big old warping of Stalkers, because you're like, I'm still not worried, and suddenly only warping in 4 Stalkers at a time, that's actually quite worrying. Mothership does get taken down. The slow zone caused the death of a couple of the Stalkers, but I mean, this would be totally in the bag. I'm just worried about the explosions. I'm worried about the explosions, man. DNS might still be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a small chance just because he's giving himself a win condition here by taking down the production. Like you were saying, it's kind of like how Armani beat Special earlier as well. That was a massive comeback, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, he has to win the fight. If he can win the fight, then Showtime will struggle to remax at this point in time until he remakes that production. But I mean, winning the fight is not going to be easy. He is 20-something supply behind, 24 supply behind as far as the army supply is concerned. But Disruptors, they could make some magic happen.
And Showtime's army is, it's kind of beat by DNS's army, again, as long as those Tempests get to utilize their range. So, I mean, it might look like Showtime might be misplaying this, but he really is playing the safest game. It's just those DTs caused so much damage. It's just that it was so much. Otherwise, DTs get in, don't do as much. It's like, yeah, of course he made the right call.
Yeah, that was the last remaining base that DNS was mining that just got taken down. DNS is going for the second to last base of Showtime right now, but this was absolutely brilliant from Showtime. It's the best maneuver that he could have gone for, right? Like, he knows that he has real estate. He knows that he has the extra economy. All he needs is time to remake his production, and then he should have this one in the bag.
He should. I'm gonna be worried. I'm gonna be worried until I see that GG, man. Oracles are gonna get good knowledge beforehand. Okay, well, one of them is. But without his own Tempest, it's not like you can necessarily bully this. He actually, like, when he engages, he actually has to engage. He has to pull the trigger. Coming from 2 different directions is definitely going to increase his chances of survival. Oh, the Disruptors on DNS is... Oh, yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, GG. That was a beautiful Disruptor flank. But yeah, it's done. When the Disruptors of DNS go down with that flank 2-pronged attack from Showtime, he will take game number 1. In spite of a good start from DNS, a good effort from him. But yeah, the wall pulling through. Kind of expected, though. Kind of expected.
Yes, I think everyone looked at this accurately, which was Showtime should win, but it's not impossible for DNS to win. Not at all. He takes maps. I think he even takes series off of Showtime and PvP, right? But especially with the way that it opened, DNS was 100% in the lead. So not, undeniably so. Can't believe you threw this. There's understandable reasons that he ended up losing, but yeah, maybe some revenge for that DNS Keen match earlier on.
Maybe so, maybe so. That is very true. And I mean, yeah, DNS played a very good game. I think that Showtime played a very good game himself and took the risks that he needed to take. And a couple of Disruptor shots that were a little bit too good here and there. So well done by him. Well done by DNS as well. And now the next match is, for me, like the most nail-biting one. It's almost a 50-50 in my mind. And yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. If we can take this one, I feel like we will take the Clan War. If we lose this one, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, I actually agree with that assessment. I definitely liked our lineups actually on Friday a lot better. Those are the ones that we lost. But Bunny versus Hero Marine, I think it's this funny, really even match where I think it would have been even before their respective injuries. And now it is the match of the injured versus the sick. So
that's true. Kind of that's very true. Oh, that's good to know that he's sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
terrible. Yeah.
I mean, rude. First of all.
Yeah, I'm really happy that Big Gabe is sick right now.
He says that he's feeling a lot better after a nap. So we'll see.
We'll see. He's probably just saying that to give the team a full sense of security. Still probably feeling pretty terribly, is what I would imagine. But yeah, Bunny, in spite of his cast, he's won the last 3 games, and they've opened TVTs against very good players as well. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty scary. We're going in America.
Oh, it wasn't the last one? I bugged out. I thought I was the one holding things up.
Wait, who has the server advantage for this one, Wardixo? Damn.
It's on Central. Which I know some Europeans would say isn't really all that much better than West, but whatever, man. It's fine.
Yeah, and Bunny has also been playing on server disadvantage a lot of these matches, so he's really been performing to a gold standard, and we need him to pull through on this one as well. He is the hitman for the gang. Next to the goat sits the bunny.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say that's fair enough.
On top of the goat, I guess. Yeah, like next to the goat, he might get trampled on, because it's like a little bunny.
Yeah, he's the high ground goat that never got fed.
Mm-hmm.
Bring back that meme. Yeah.
Goat that never got fed? Where is that?
From the season finals. There was always a high ground goat and it never got fed.
Yeah.
When it tried to eat, the other goat moved it out of the way. It was rude.
That's amazing. Very rude.
All right. That's a callback.
That is indeed a callback. And now, yeah, we're in the game. It's your boy.
Is it? Okay. All right. As the Green Terran, we've got Hero Marine.
And at the top left-hand side, out for blood in the red, it is Bunny.
Yeah, I mean, the red for blood. Makes sense.
Yeah, that's what we went for. He's going to be going for a gas first, so potentially somewhat of an aggressive opening, or just prioritizing the gas for faster Ravens or something of the likes.
Yeah, I'm actually still not 100% clear what gets pumped out a bit faster. I think it is just the factory is still a bit faster, as opposed to the gas after barracks, but then gas. What Hero Marine's doing, actually, which it sounded like for a while that it was just the true evolving. Like this was just the next best thing, right? But yeah, a ton of the Koreans still do what Bunny does and goes into a factory expand. But maybe he is going to 1x expand, which is just it's a much bigger difference, I think, than talking details about the CatZs.
Yeah, I think that would be a good approach. If he doesn't want to saturate his second gas for a little while, then taking a gas earlier can help to mitigate for the effects of that. As there's a Reaper starter on the side of Hero Marine, there will be a Reaper to match on the side of Bunny. And yeah, gas-wise, he's actually now falling behind to the second gas, but he does have the money for ACC.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so he's going to get away with this, basically. Or he's going to try and get away with it, I should say. Hero Marine's job is to basically disrupt it for like 10 seconds. So the equivalent of like 2 or 3 SCVs, either killed or disrupt the SCV production somehow. That's usually is very possible. Very possible. Theoretically, I guess, if you played a perfect 1x expand versus a factory expand, you are in the lead. But it seems so much more likely that something goes awry, something has to be compensated for. So we rarely talk about how much of a lead Bunny, would get from this opener. There'd be so many other things happening in the TVT, Raven usage, tank positioning, so on and so forth.
For sure. And the way that Bunny mitigates, I think, for this type of opening and the potential for aggression on the other side is that, A, like you said, he has the gas first, so his factory is not going to be lagging too far behind, and then he gets a quick reactor and goes up to like 6 Hellions oftentimes. So he has a few more units, a few of those more tier 1 units, I guess, that most players would make in the matchup. But 2 Reapers already for Big Gabe. Oh, a little bit too shy. I think he could have gone in and gotten a snipe on the SCV probably, right?
100%. He could have gotten the SCV snipe, but he was worried for what else was coming along with this. He doesn't know for a fact that Bunny went for only 1 Reaper, but he also might know that, A, it could be a second Reaper, B, I could be up against a Hellion build, and what is diving really going to be worth if I end up losing the Reapers? Because honestly, kill 1 SCV now, okay, fair, but maybe lose the Reapers, hold on to 2 Reapers, backstab at this weird moment, kill 4 SCVs later,
Yeah, I think that's where some research would have been pretty good on the side of Big Gabe, just because Bunny has been opening like this, and he is going for that 6 Hellion opening, and he does get him off of a reactor, obviously. But you're right, if there wasn't this opening and Bunny had just pumped up the first Hellion without a reactor, then those Reapers could have been punished.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I don't know if Hero Marine actually did watch Bunny's previous games, but I feel like this is a strong response to a 6 Hellion opener, which is Hellions aren't great fighting units. If you get enough of them, I guess they're all right. Okay, well, now he knows. But doing a tank drop, like, there's not a lot that the Hellions can do about a tank. So.
Yeah, but he's gonna catch it well in advance. There's gonna be a Raven out already for Bunny, and 2 of the Reapers already went down as well. So this isn't the worst thing in the world. He is making a Cyclone in response as well. That's gonna be coming out pretty soon. So I think this is fine.
The one thing that Hero Marine knows when he does this against Bunny's build, though, is that there's no way there's a tank already sieged. So you can kind of just place your tank right up to the edge as opposed to waffling about or playing, like, too safe. So you do pretty much guarantee get the supply depot in the reactor. That's off to the side. A little surprised we have an engagement, and that Raven's gonna die. It gets the auto turret out, but I don't know, losing a Raven here. The tank is gonna die. Okay, that makes it a bit better for Bunny.
Yeah, but I'm surprised as well. I feel like the timing was a little bit off to where the Raven could have waited and maybe just disabled the tank when the Cyclone is out. Because there wasn't really that much threat from the tank immediately, but still, it ends up working out well for Bunny because he does get the snipe on the tank just barely.
That's actually very funny that Hero Marine's going for a Banshee. Did Special start a new meta? Did all the other Terrans agree with him? I get the idea, I think. It's not that he doesn't think that a Raven's going to come out second, because it's 2 or 3 Ravens nowadays, right? I guess some builds actually have 0, but it's 2 or 3. But I think what he's hoping is that Bunny will feel not obligated, but might actually be moving out to take his 3rd, or simply moving out to stop Hero Marine's 3rd. And that's when this kind of odd timing Banshee just swoops in and kills 6 SCVs before the Raven or the Scan responds, before the Cyclones come back, something like that.
Yeah, and the Cyclone was actually patrolling in the main, and it just got moved. So I was ready to say, well, Bunny has a Cyclone in position, but I don't think he does anymore. So no problem.
I wasn't paying attention to Hero Marine's other part of his build. But he's going mech. He got super fast 4 gases.
Okay.
He's not usually a mech player.
Very interesting, as he's gonna spot the army of Bunny in the middle of the map, and that's gonna be a green light for his Banshee to move in, you would think, but it hasn't yet. So this is gonna give time for Bunny to actually get those Vikings out. The problem is he's just rallying them towards his army.
So that was a good time scan for Bunny, 100%, actually seeing your opponent going for mech this early. But that was also kind of a funnily good scan for Hero Marine, because it looks like it's just a double check on the same thing, but it also checked to see if there is something for the Banshee, so...
Yeah, and I mean, this Banshee has been really patient, and it's gonna pay off. There's a tank and not a Cyclone popping up, and these Vikings are on the front, so Bunny's gonna have to wait for the next 2 Vikings. Now they pop up. Only 3, 4 SCVs, maybe 5, no, just 4 SCVs have fallen, but the mineral line having to be evacuated, and some of those production buildings stalled for a little bit, so not the worst thing for Hero Marine either.
No, it really is like, okay. Meh. SCV is going to be pulled into this. You want to break it before they actually get too much on the front lines. And this seems like it's really going to be costly for Hero Marine, and it is. But he had more SCVs to work with. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to escape with any of those SCVs. If at least, like, literally 5 more SCVs escape from that fight, it's still even.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate on the side of Bunny because he wasn't paying attention. He had a lot of energy on those Ravens to where he could have dropped some defensive turrets there, and then that would have been a much more expensive dislodge for Hero Marine, even if he does end up getting it. So could have been a little bit better for Bunny, but again, wasn't paying attention, I think.
Maybe, yeah, a little bit late, little surprised. Was hoping definitely that his reinforcements would have gotten there first. Hero Marine is going to push the issue, and
a lot of tanks.
The only thing I'm worried about for Hero Marine is that he's actually not necessarily hands down winning the air war. He's missing Ravens, and the Viking count's very even.
Yeah, he will get a scan here and actually pre-positions the tank really nicely, but Bunny with a nice move back there for the time being. The Vikings, like you said, are a big threat for Big Gabe. The Ravens now moving on forward. Good disables, and with the turrets, he should be able to dislodge this easily, as some SCVs have been pulled off the line. Actually, a little bit of a mistake to pull those back and into the tank range, so loses an additional 5 that he didn't need to.
That still wasn't good enough for Hero Marine, though. I mean, not only did he not get more SCVs killed, losing your army as a mech player is much worse than losing it as a bio player. Maybe if he had also nullified the Viking count, if they had died in the process, I would have been okay with that, but they didn't. So that's a third problem, I guess, is that the Viking count now is officially in favor of Bunny. So this would be quite the comeback for Hero Marine.
Yeah, and the fourth problem is a little bit of a baby problem, but he lost the barracks as well, so he's gonna have to remake that before having to or wanting to remake any additional factories, and that could come into play. Could be the type of thing that you forget about as well. These Vikings now have free reign in the air, so Bunny's gonna position sometimes in range of the first tank of Hero Marine. Here you would think, nope, barely out.
Nah, Hero Marine did have that scan, so he would have shot at him if they were in position. He knows that it's inevitable that he will lose control of this, though. So he's going to try and pull once again. If the Vikings don't land, Hero Marine has a chance. If they do, he does not. GG. Oh. Yep. I mean, that could have been a really cool attack from the mech if maybe it had a different position. Going up the middle, though, I kind of could see what he was thinking for the actual engage, because his fodder units, like the Marines he built and whatever miscellaneous, was going to cover his tank siege. But yeah, those Vikings at the end, the fact that auto turrets could still come down, that was always going to be tough to take kind of like a blitz. You know, maybe a long stay, hope Bunny mishandles, falls under the pressure. Okay, but a blitz, I think it always was hard for Hero Marine to win that one.
Yeah, and that is the thing, right? And in retrospect, I think that a lot of the problem for Hero Marine is a little bit of an inconsistency with his previous strategy, and the fact that he had just broken out of his natural expansion that cost him a little bit of economy. But that all was to situate his own economy, right? Like to get himself into the later game. And I touched on it. I said Bunny didn't use the energy on the Ravens, and I think still that he could have used the energy on those Ravens, and it would have been much more expensive for Hero Marine. But Hero Marine almost forgetting that the Ravens didn't use the energy, right? So on offense, it's going to be much harder. So I think he should have just, taken the win in breaking the contain as cheaply as he did, I guess. It was still a few SCVs to lose, of course. But yeah, I mean, going up against the energy, like you were mentioning on the Ravens, very difficult thing.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's the auto turrets, the interference matrix, both fantastic against what is kind of a low quantity, high quality army that is, mostly tanks. So yeah, I mean, I like the change up from Hero Marine. I guess thinking about that as one, he might be compensating a little bit because he feels sick. I mean, we've had that for Ping, for instance, in the past. That mech is just kind of demanding. It's also just a complete change up as far as what you would expect from Hero Marine, which is quite the standard, quite, bio Marine tank. So he was trying to hopefully either throw Bunny off or maybe even abuse the map to a certain extent. But I would be a lot more confident about the abusing the map feature if he had gone up to that top right position for Bunny's third, right? That's the one that people usually are like, that's so tough.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, especially against Bio running up a choke. That would have been very difficult. But I think, difficult to blame him because he got a good position onto one of the tanks that Bunny repositioned really fast. But maybe that gave him a false sense of security that he was already in a pretty good position to continue the push. Now, we have Trademark, your first round draft against Lambo the King. And spawning in the top right-hand side for the Shopify Rebellion and Goat and the gang, it is Lambo the King.
I don't know why he's the king. All right. Bottom left, it is the Green Terran. Trademark, eThermal.
Well, his Twitch is Lambo King.
Well, that's incredibly obvious. Yeah. That's fair enough. Why is it Lambo King, though? I've never bothered to ask that question.
I don't know. To be honest, like, it's the kind of thing that I used to name myself, like, King CatZ and, like, stuff like that when I was, like, 15. And so, like, I always found it funny that Lambo named himself Lambo King on Twitch. And one time I asked him, a few years ago, I'm like, oh, Lambo King. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I made that name, when I first started streaming, and it's too late to change it now. And ever since then, I've called him Lambo King, and a lot of people now call him Lambo King, and I think it's hilarious because, who names themselves Lambo King?
I guess you're right. 16-year-olds on the internet.
Pretty much, yeah.
Gas King. And myself, zombie.
But he
queen.
is kingly. He's kingly, of course, yeah.
Sure. Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
I think Euthermal's pretty happy to not be facing a Protoss, but I don't know if he's exactly happy to be facing Lambo. I think usually I would say this is a pretty even match, but Lambo's very good at preparing. And Lambo also looked really, really damn good against Here Marine in their best of 5 show match they played only a couple of days ago. Like, insanely good. So I do think Euthermal, kind of pacing wise, he's got a different pace. He's got a different tempo as far as Terran players go. It can throw off some Zerg players. If we're talking about a straight up DVT, yeah, as long as Lambo doesn't, I don't know, buckle under pressure or something, he was looking more solid.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a very evenly matched match. I would favor Lambo slightly, but it's always been traditionally like one of those matches that's kind of like one of the classics of a European StarCraft. So I think it could still go either way, and it should be a very explosive one.
Mm-hmm. And looks like Euthermal is going to try and play this out. Very macro-oriented. 3CC is on the way. I know at least from the last Euthermal stream, he played his EVT and was quite disappointed that his Banshee opener basically didn't do damage. And as much as we'll cast games, see a 2-base Banshee opener into a 3rd CC and say, again, like so many other mitigating circumstances as to why this build did or did not work, why this player did or did not win. Yeah, to Terran players, it seems pretty like hit or miss. You know, either the Banshees get 10 drones or they are total failures and the Terran has lost the build order advantage kind of situation. So I think kind of negating that, putting himself on the best macro foot forward, he's also kind of hoping that he doesn't get beat by a build order win. Because I don't think Lambo's the type to cheese, right? Which would be the build order win against a 3CC.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about that. Lambo will be playing most likely like a macro game. He is mostly an honorable player and with a lot of faith in his system as well, right? Like he's one of those very systemic players. Like he always has a plan for everything that's going on in the game, and sometimes, you know, like doesn't execute up to the potential of what he believes to be the right responses as well. But let's hope that he can do it here, as you know. I think mechanically these players should be pretty close to each other. So, but Euthermal, that said, he is a very intelligent player in his own right? Like one of the more creative Terrans. Like he always has his own solutions as well. Makes a lot of YouTube videos. Both of these players actually highly instructional on YouTube.
Yeah, very educational.
Mm-hmm.
Euthermal may be a little more memey, I suppose. He's got a very famous build going around right now called the Bong Cloud. So I can only imagine
what does it do?
how serious that one is. I actually, so he got asked that question, and I was like, I can explain it. It's Gangnam Style Terran in 2022. And of course, the person I was explaining it to was like, the hell is that? It doesn't help me at all.
It doesn't help me much either, to be honest.
He lifts the CC. He lifts the CC and puts it somewhere else to start the game, so people get confused.
I see.
So Gangnam Style Terran, right, was like on Habitation Station. Wasn't that the name of the map?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you lifted the gold.
Station.
Maybe rich, like Gangnam is known for rich people.
Ah, yeah, I remember now. Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyways.
That map was fun.
It was. I mean, I think that was still one of the more... So it has fond memories, right? The map's known for like Scarlet Bomber, Gangnam Style Terran, but then also towards the tail end of it, it was mostly known for like Mass Raven auto turrets around the map, which wasn't that fun. This is really peculiar what Euthermal's doing here. Usually when you go for a 3CC build, you're actually just kind of like, all right, I take this chance. Let's just take all the chances. Let's go right into a 2-1-1, barely any factory units, really vulnerable in the early game. He's not doing that. He actually went up to 11, so I guess 12 Hellions, and then lost one. So I think this might be a little more like, well, I was thinking maybe he was going to do something that Time was doing, which was adding a faster armory so that there's Hellbat pushes with your first Marine push out. Mm-hmm. But I don't think this was that build. So he just has
but this is a good roasting perhaps from Euthermal, though Lambo does a decent job of evacuating the mineral line, but the Queen's not really in position here. Trusting that creep a little bit too much. The Overlord's not spread here on that high ground, so Euthermal knowing that he's gonna go in with not too much notice, and with this many Hellions, I mean, he snatches 8 workers and loses nothing.
It was not as scary as it could be, right? So it was actually only 11 Hellions, but the point stands. This is a lot of Hellion production. There's 2 things that happen. One, The Hellions get useless after a while. 2, they take up this potential accelerated barracks production. So imagine 4 Hellions, and then how many minerals you have left over to go right into barracks. That's much faster barracks. So there's definitely a need to do damage with these Hellions, unless they just really are quite good when they turn to Hellbats. But
that's a good point, yeah. I mean, they did find those 8 workers. Later on, they could turn into Hellbats anyway. Like, there's gonna be an armory at some point, surely. So we'll see what these Hellions end up trading up for. And it's also gonna be confusing for Lambo, right? Like, because if you don't get the good scouts, you always have to have it in the back of your mind. Is this like mech or something weird of a follow-up? I'm not sure that Lambo has been too much on your thermal side of the map. Let's see.
He doesn't seem to be worried about mech. He might have seen... Yeah. The bunker, funnily enough. No, he didn't actually see that either. So he hasn't actually seen bio confirmation.
Yeah, he saw the tech lab on the barracks, but that's it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think he just knows. Otherwise, we'd see a Roachworn.
Yeah.
No problem for your player. I definitely think Uthermal was hoping for a bit more, dropping the ball from Lambo, as far as protecting his drones. But the Hellions have been doing a better job than most Hellions. Thankfully, they are, because there's more of them, on denying creep spread. So there's that.
That is true. Yeah, and Uthermal's gonna find a drop here, but Lambo will find him first, actually, as his units are well in position to prevent the drop from going down. The Hellions are gonna continue to drop the creep, I suppose, as the tanks get situated behind, so Lambo has to be careful not to chase here.
It's kind of a funny engagement. So Uthermal knows that a lot of the army is not helping on that left side attack.
Ooh.
And it's just the right type of army for Uthermal to hold the left side as well. Because it could actually be so easily overwhelmed. The Hellions are only so good. But Uthermal has actually orchestrated 3 points on the map really well. He tracks one side of the map with the drop, and then he makes Lambo worry about the other half of the map, and then defends back at home.
Yeah, it was a good defense, but Lambo really could have maybe consolidated his army a little bit better before going in. If the mainlings are closer to the Zerglings and he doesn't bleed out those Zerglings at first, it's fantastic. This is a great cleanup here. Good unit positioning and presence of mind to have the Spore Crawlers there already. So a small victory for Lambo. There's the Hellbats.
Yeah, 9 Hellbats. That is going to soak up a lot. Lambo's going to set up pretty much a surround by the looks of things. 3 tanks will help out. Hellbats will absolutely help out. And there's not a lot of creep spread on this left side. But has Uthermal picked up on this surround? Absolutely. He actually got the Zelnaga at the exact right time. So he should be prepared to pull his Marines back behind the mechanical units in time. Is he actually going to take this fight? This is a huge surround. And it's just so much stuff, actually, that Uthermal is going to get obliterated.
Yeah, that's just a little bit too much Zerg. So good setup there from Lambo. And not really waiting for reinforcements or anything like that from Uthermal. He's going to gain a good supply lead off of the back of that as he drops both the Hive and the Lurker then in response too. So he's just going to sit back. He's not looking to kill Uthermal here. He's just going to get the units that he needs and make his investment pay off in the long run.
Yeah, and if it's going to be... If Lurkers come out, there's really no hope for Uthermal, who's 8 racks all-inning. Now, I think he will add on a 4th base. So, is he really all-inning? Yeah, he still is. No second factory and no 4th base for this long. That's super dedicated. Uthermal's plan probably was to just really catch Lambo's his 5th off guard and kind of cause the chaos that leads to the punch to the face on the left. But Lambo, it's too cool for school, man. He handled that really well.
He's a little bit too cool for school indeed, and he's going to be chasing this army of Uthermal on this side. I'm looking at the other side and there's not much going on either, so Lambo will not have to split his attention whatsoever. And Uthermal now has consolidated his army, and there's a stream of green now heading towards the north. These Queens are going to catch these 2 drops and give a little bit of a heads up for Lambo to reposition whatever units he needs at his main base as he gets ready to deflect the main push. If he stops this one, ZombieGrub, you said it, Uthermal is pretty all-in. Very low on tech is the problem for him.
Yeah, he is getting a 2nd factory as his priority, so I think I've seen him go for a 4th CC first, then 2nd factory, but those are the 2 things you need to play the rest of the game, and you can really only get one or the other for a while. The drop in the main, totally unsuccessful. Uthermal pushing deep on a creep is very scary indeed, because as much as supplies look like they're even, the splash is not really there for Uthermal, so we'd have to hope that Lambo does not take such a beautiful fight, doesn't get that surround, doesn't get connections with the Banelings, and then that kind of, the old-fashioned way of winning an 8 racks, where the Zerg goes, oh no, I don't have any Banelings, and like 5 Marines win. I think that's what Uthermal's hoping for.
Yeah, here we go. The army for Lambo, like you're pointing out or alluding to, is much more expensive. He needs connections, however, off of creep. And the Marines are doing a good job. The Liberators doing what they can as well, but with so many Hydras left over, Lambo does get the cleanup.
Yeah, I know Lambo actually took a good enough fight, but yo, there is some sick Marine. I don't know if it's target fire. I think it was just unfortunate, like the Banelings rolling in. But some Marines on the top side took down like 20 Banelings before they died. And that is the thing that Lambo was worried about, I guess the Zerg was worried about, is if they do that, don't actually break the Terran, and then there's like 20 Marines left. That can actually kill the Zerg. In this case, I don't think it will.
Yeah, it was really close, and it was really scary because there was only Hydras and Lings left over, right? And without AoE, Marines are actually going to shred for just Link Hydra. But now there's enough Banelings, now there's enough Lurkers. So Lambo has managed to stabilize. And now he can look to maybe, if not just, I think after pushing this back, you just go and deny the 4th base. You just assume that there has to be a 4th base coming from your opponent. Uthermal knows that the south part of the map is kind of just undefended, where he is applying pressure to the side of the map. So very smartly, he's repositioning to try and take the base that is consistent with his attack, right? Like, because he can attack and defend at the same time, basically. But Lambo's going to be looking for this 3rd, or for this 4th, not going to find it. Instead, he's going to go into the natural and 3rd expansion, perhaps. And this looks wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to do a lot of damage. So while Uthermal did get the drop over to the right side, apparently unscouted, he also didn't scout the run by. So the damage done here, way better for Lambo as he gets into the natural for more SCVs. I guess he will eventually get cleaned up, but the momentum stop is huge here. Even though Uthermal still has a good army supply, that kind of was, I guess it was half a nail in the coffin, because the 4th base is down, so there's always that chance, but it's very difficult. Uthermal can't afford to start +3 attack.
This is why they call him the king. That's the real answer.
Because he's Zerg and it's so super overpowered? That makes sense.
Because he takes out 1st place drafts like it's nothing.
Yeah, I put a lot of emphasis on who 1st place draft was. Can't believe people don't bring that up more. SMH.
I mean, you said people don't banter. You know, like...
You did not banter, that's true.
That's the easy one.
It is. Well, maybe picking up would have been a good idea. A little bit sooner, a little bit. I think he was trying to deflect this attack on this side of the map. Tanks are not properly covered, so while they are usually in a great position, yeah, they're actually going to go down. And that 3rd base is also a goner. Uthermal, I mean, there is that chance again. I'm talking about so many chances that are like 5% chances that Lambo kind of exhausts himself. And he's like, yeah, I'm winning. No big deal. Let's go. And then suddenly he doesn't have enough army. But it's so rare for a Terran to win like that. The Hail Mary rush across the map, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It so rarely wins.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Special do the opposite of that earlier against Armani, but that's pretty much what Uthermal needs at this point from Lambo, because Lambo has every advantage otherwise. Army value is actually in favor of Uthermal, but it's going to be brief, the amount of time that he holds that for.
Yeah. Exactly. He'd have to take the perfect fight when usually it's just not possible, especially against Lurkers, which are quite cost efficient. So Uthermal, at the very least, going to say that he is on 4 bases. He's repairing his 3rd command center, but 29 SCVs, hardly 4 bases. He even took a risk by getting his 4th as an orbital because he has to take a risk. Hope that it isn't bothered by a bunch of Lings. And Lambo is just continuing to improve on his army. It's funny, he's never cleaned up this tank liberator thing in the top left. So like 2 pretty good sets of units, right? That are just like chilling.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. I guess you would want to Ling flood that and ignore the Liberators for longer until the engagement happens with the Hydras or something, or just Lings first and then Hydras after. Not sure. But yeah, it's been an effective contain there in a sense from Uthermal, and Lambo's actually moving into a lot of tanks and pre-spread bio.
Yeah, he got overconfident. That is the type of overconfidence that I was talking about, and Lambo is not rich. Like, his amount, the amount of mining he's had in this game is not as much as you would think. I think just because, you know, 5 bases, 83 drones are fantastic, don't get me wrong, but it's maybe not as much just because it's not 6 bases consistently mining. There's been some disruptions. Like, that's the only excuse I got for it, but there's not like a 3,000 bank, and Zerg players are going to want that after sacrificing 7 Lurkers.
Yeah, that was rather nasty, actually. I mean, looking at it with God Vision, it's very easy to fault Lambo for that move, but in his mind, I think he knows that Euthermal has this contained right here, and he expects the entire or the great majority of the army of Euthermal to be here. But Euthermal actually had like more or less a perfect split, if not more valuable units on the south protecting his bases. So he thinks he's moving into a mostly undefended situation, and there's like just so many tanks that you get to find out when they fire at you, right? So. Yeah. A little bit rough, but great props to Euthermal, right? Like just betting on the right area of the map there.
Yes, he's betting on the right situation, which is the one that I was describing, so I feel nice. But the thing is, I think Lambo falls for it once, you know, and then he doesn't fall for it again. So he brings Vipers this time. That's an obvious change. He scouts the Overseer first. He's like 7 tanks, decides, nope, JK. And then he can actually break this. I frankly not call it a contain at all. Euthermal has to hold the appearance that he's strong, because if he doesn't, his 3rd and his 4th both get broken at the same time.
Yeah, there is a lot of tanks here, but the Vipers that you mentioned are going to be wonderful here, as they are going to disable all of those tanks there. And that gives Lambo a very effective siege, as Euthermal's going to move through the middle of the map and into Lambo's natural base. I quite like that maneuver as well, knowing that the Lurkers are on the other side. But Lambo is doing a lot of damage here. Yeah.
This is the YOLO, right? Which Lurkers are, I mean, even better. Well, actually, they might be a little worse than Banelings, to be honest, just because I feel like you can outrun Lurkers more. But Lambo, he's got this. The Bio army from Euthermal can only run around so much. GG.
GG. Love to see it. And Lambo, the king of kings, is going to bring one home for the gang. Love it. Yeah,
I would wonder what Euthermal would have done better there. I don't know. I guess I don't really like the 11 Hellions. But then again, we didn't see them perhaps do their maximum amount of damage. Say if they get 16 drones and then stay alive and add 9 Hellbats to the push. How different is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure either, because it looked decent. Like he was consistent with his plan. Like he clears a lot of the creep and then gets situated in presumably what's a good position. Right, mostly out of creep, but the surround and the position from Lambo just looked like it made it look like you just shouldn't push there, and you're just shooting all in there because it's just too much third, too much surround.
Yeah, and it's not like there was any kind of but you know, Lambo gave up this to do it. He was on 74 drones, I want to say, getting his 5th base up, because you know he properly protected his 5th. Not to say that he didn't play well, but you know, if he had stayed at 66 drones, I guess, and his 5th was on the way, then I think it is still a very different scenario, more playable, even if it's still Lambo favored. But the way that it happened, it looked like, you know, what was Euthermal's push supposed to do? The Zerg's totally fine. I don't get it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it looked, he made it look really good there, Lambo did. I'm with you on the Hellions. I mean, they did pick off 8 workers, but it's 11 Hellions, right? And I feel like 6 or 8 Hellions maybe would have done kind of like the same amount of damage anyway, because they went into a mostly unprotected mineral line. So maybe it was mostly just for the creep spread and situating that attack, and just didn't work out.
I also wouldn't be surprised, because I'm like bringing vague memories into my head of Lambo really buckling under Hellion pressure. But I'm remembering a game from maybe a year ago at this point. You know, it was kind of weird how much he buckled under the pressure, but he just legitimately didn't expect like 10 Hellions. Actually, I think I know exactly what this was. This is when I was going over replays with Lambo, and he was talking about that early Hellion pressure, and he was struggling against it. So maybe Euthermal really thought that they would not just do damage, but they would also really throw Lambo off his tempo, basically. And I just, it didn't.
Yeah, unfortunately not this time around for Thermi. And I mean, now, I hate to say it, but I don't hate to say it, ZombieGrub. It's, this match is going to be extremely difficult, I think, for anyone in the world. Spawning in the bottom left-hand side of the map for Ents and Goat and the gang. The Goat himself, it's Serral.
In the bottom right, we have the green Protoss, Kilos. I mean, Serral lost 1 game, CatZ.
That's true.
I don't know if he has the hot stuff anymore.
Yeah, that would be the criticism out there for sure. But I mean, this time around, Skillus, I gotta say, one of my favorite players to watch. I think one of the most improved players in recent years of Europe. The only problem is he's going against the king of StarCraft, basically, right? But Skillus is, I think, one of my favorite fourth draft picks. Like, I think I would have picked him up very quickly and very easily.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was a good pickup. I think I was throwing out other names, and it was the like Uthermal Showtime, and I don't think Marina joined yet. I think they were the ones that were saying like Skillus is like the good pick. I think it also came down to Skillus when it got back to me, so there was that too. But I think I was throwing out like Nice. Maybe that was for my fifth round pick. I'm not sure, but there was definitely other names, and I was like, really, Skillus? Not because I don't like the guy. I just was wondering if he was going to be the strongest fourth pick when we still had, I guess, a decent number of players left. But they actually had a lot of confidence in him. And Skillus has been throwing up W's when you don't expect it necessarily in the Open Cups. Like, the Open Cups kind of have this hierarchy that's pretty fair to read. You know, Marine almost always gets the finals, Clem as well if they play. Showtime gets third, fourth, and then Skillus maybe like round of 8. But, you know, not necessarily run the round 4, but he was getting to the finals. He was even, I think he won a couple of Open Cups. So I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, no, this actually makes a lot of sense. It's a very good fourth pick. But he hasn't necessarily gotten his the best matches so far that he would want. Really thinking that he blew his lead versus Time, for example. And I don't think he's exactly happy about facing Serral right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, to your point, I think that Skillus, even when he doesn't make those deep runs, if you look at the run of Hero Marine, Skillus is one of those players that will consistently bruise him, right? Like, take one map off of him and stuff like that. Like, if not in the semis, then earlier. So, yeah, I think he's an excellent player. I think he is one of the more emotional players in StarCraft, though, at the highest level. And I think that kind of gets... He can get in his own head, basically. And that would worry me a little bit in this type of setup where he's not just playing for himself, but also under the pressure of his team and expectations to perform for other people as well, right? Because he's a considerate human being, and that makes it harder.
He's actually a really nice guy. He's got a big heart. You're absolutely right. You know, that can sometimes negatively affect you. You know, maybe if you have enough confidence to accurately assess, I think I can win against this guy. Maybe it's not that bad. But as soon as Skillus would go up against a Hero Marine, who he was nervous against because he thought, he might be the underdog, we saw him slip. That was one of the first big runs he had in DreamHack. It was like, wow, he's doing really well. Maybe he has a shot against Hero Marine. And I think it's even when he took 2 maps off of him, but then the nerves got to him. So that's
he chokes.
A bit of an issue.
Like, he for sure chokes. Similar problem with Spirit, maybe for different reasons, but these are 2 players from the European scene that I think if they can get nerves out of the way, for whatever their reasons for the nerfs, they would be so much better in competitive StarCraft. So we'll see when the time for that comes for Skillus, but hopefully not today. He is opening double Stargate, though.
I wonder if he's going to still try and go for Void Rays. I'd be shocked. This has to be Phoenix. I mean, he's still producing Phoenix, so it's going to be Phoenix. I'd be very disappointed if it was Void Rays for a couple of reasons. 1, they're not necessarily the best anymore. 2, man, they're kind of boring units.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive to get out. He did favor Void Rays a lot pre-patch, though, so he has had to adapt for sure a little bit to the patch. And I mean, still going for the Stargates. I do love Phoenix because they have so much potential to just kind of catch your opponent off guard. And if they don't have an army to retaliate right away, or if they're not already fully set up, then the Phoenix can kind of snowball with the harassment. So it's one of those surprise gotcha type unit compositions that can really work out.
We'll say that, one thing that was proven in Serral's last game versus Hero was that he isn't maybe as confident. Now, I say that, and there's plenty of examples where Serral does kind of similar things. He plays a safe game, and he does win because he is ultimately a better or much better player. But he has, there's not immaculate play. There's things that you can poke and prod and say, actually, if I get the same effects going, then maybe I have a shot. So if Skillus' Phoenix end up being this huge surprise, then Serral might actually have to reevaluate, reposition, rethink his game plan. And that, it doesn't sound like much, but when you're up against Serral, I feel like that's the first thing that you give yourself credit for. Maybe I can make this guy kind of a little bit off his game, just like a smidge. That'd be great.
Yeah, or play to his reputation to some degree. I think that both of the last losses that I saw from Serral that were on not the technical grounds of like how well the players can macro and micro and like just mechanics overall, but rather on strategical grounds. They were both exploiting Serral from the position of the underdog. It was DRG that I really love that series, where he kind of exploited Serral and like his previous reactions and the fact that Serral likes to be defensive, the fact that he probably wants to take it to the later game and just get super ahead economically. And then today, Hero did the exact same thing, where he opens up with 4 Adepts at the timing where you would expect 4 Adepts and then for 4 more to follow up. So Serral makes a swell of links, which is what you would expect anyone would do against that. And then he makes a bunch of roaches, which is kind of like accounting for the follow-up. But then Hero only made 4 Adepts, you know? So he just gets way ahead economically, way ahead in probes. Then Serral has the army, so he knows that he has the army, and then he can counterattacks. But oh, this time around, I guess, maybe focus on this one because Serral's going for a Nidus with queens.
Yeah, I saw the Nidus from being built, and I was like, oh, that does sound spicy against someone who opened up Phoenix. But I gotta say, Skillous, okay, the fact that it's not in his main is already good. The second fact that he actually went double Robo Immortal is also, I mean, they're not gonna kill the queens fast at all, but they're not gonna die that fast either, is kind of the weird thing when it comes to holding these queen pushes. Like, nothing dies quickly.
Yeah, that Ravager would have been transfused in the prior patch without a doubt, but this time around not able to, as the queens were not far enough of on creep. So Serral having Archon to push a little bit slower.
Please live, Archon, live. Yeah, some of the queens aren't going to get transfuses, but some of them are. More Immortals are coming out. The Phoenix are trying to take out these Ravagers, and a lot of them are not getting as healed up as they usually would. But is this actually going to be a hold? Zealots do have charge now, but just Skillous, they have enough warp-ins. Only 6 Zealots at a time can be warped in. The static defense, though, is really coming in clutch, and the double Immortal, again, they don't die quickly, especially when they have a shield battery on their side.
Yeah, this is actually looking like a hold and a really good game for Skillous to turn around here. I mean, this looks extremely difficult now for Serral, who has been completely deflected. And will he take 2 losses in one day to 2 different Protosses and on 2 different realms and swords as well? I mean, this is Serral. I don't know if it's overconfidence or because, you know, like Nidus Queen Ravager. I thought against Phoenix, though, to be perfectly honest, I thought this should work, right? Like Skillous open Phoenix, but Skillous with a wonderful defense.
He held, man. That was perfectly done, really. I mean, the only criticism is, I don't know, maybe he could have pulled back a hot second sooner, taking the fight a little bit more off of creep. That's the only critique, because otherwise that was always going to be a tough hold. But he had the tools. He had the static defense. He had the double Robo, and he had Archons, which is also really important, right? One of them got stuck, so he had to kill his own cannon. But this is great. I mean, it still might not be over because of the whole Serral factor, where even if he doesn't get this humongous lead, he still wins. But damn, Skillous, he should have some confidence, and I hope he uses it too, because obviously one of the factors can be don't get overconfident. He's Serral, you know, don't do anything, just live, and suddenly you lose your lead.
Yeah, and I mean, we were talking about Skillous choking. This would be the perfect opportunity for him to choke here, because
excuse me,
you know. And I mean, Serral is the type of player that will force mistakes. In that game against Hero, even though strategically, again, he took 2 huge disadvantages, just because Hero basically tricked him twice, and because Serral wants to take it to the late game. So he's, you know, if he has a risk to take, oftentimes it's going to be in favor of safety over potentially dying and droning up. But in this case, he's gonna have to kind of play from behind as the underdog. And still, even in that game against Hero, it looked like at certain points, like it's Serral, of course, like he's gonna find a way. And this game, you know, it doesn't look like he's not gonna find a way somehow.
Great commentary.
Like, you know, like it looks doable.
He might find a way. The Mutas do find the Warp Prism, get that thrown off his back. Also take away the reinforcements, obviously, from the frontal push. Because the frontal push is actually really scary. Wait, there's already a second Warp Prism? That was fast. Never mind then. I was going to say the frontal push is scary with Warp-Ins. Without Warp-Ins, it's doable. So I think that Warp Prism was pretty key. And the Mutas don't do a lot. 5 probes plus the Warp Prism denial, though. Hey, that was not many Mutas.
And a warp-in as well back at home, right? Where Skillous probably wants to be a little bit aggressive, so those Stalkers not able to contribute here. A lot of the links are going to bleed out into the front, and Serral trying to break through those force fields. Still two sentries full of energy there. so he's got to be careful. Crit turret is not nearly as good as he would want it to be because he was so focused on that earlier attack. But we have Serral now nearly maxed.
Yeah, and that's obviously not what Skillos was hoping for. If he catches Serral 170 supply before Banelings are ready, that's not the easiest fight of his life, but it's a much easier one than he usually faces against Zerg. But now he's going to catch a max out Serral with Banelings prepared because speed's going to be actually done. So Skillos maybe missing his mark to do more damage because of the mutas. The mutas the best thing he did right there was just stop the momentum, I think. Plus they did some direct damage, of course.
Yeah, and double disruptors are now going to be the response from Skillos, and I do absolutely love that. But they are a little bit later. I think he was looking to kill Serral there with that move out. Identifies that Serral has a little bit more than he anticipated he could have at this point, perhaps. And so he goes back into disruptor production a little bit later than he might have liked to. So, yeah, I mean, still chances for Serral, but attacking into double disruptor production at the same time is going to be near impossible. So Serral knows that, and he's going to start his hive.
Those stalkers should die.
Oh,
he's looking for a big surround. He's going to come in with a concave, but that's not as much of a surround as it could have been. And to be frank, Skillos' army is just really tanky. The Banelings coming on the backside really awkwardly into the Immortals. A War Prism just straight up in the middle of the fight. That was bold. But Serral's attack, I gotta say, hazard.
Yeah, I mean, this did not look good at all. And yeah, I don't know where the Banelings were. They seem to be on a kind of a weird flank. Yeah, rolling around. But that was not it. And now, I mean, Skillos with all the cards on the table. Really good Biles take out actually something like 3 sentries. Whoa. Only a couple of Ravagers go down here. Serral is trying to make some magic happen with whatever he has left. 20 supply behind is Skillos, but this is mostly inflated by the fact that it's Roaches on the side of Serral. And Skillos does very well to hold this position on the high ground with Disruptors and with the chokes.
Yeah. Roaches and even some of those mutas are still alive, not adding much because Skillos invested into a decent amount of stack defense. I mean, Skillos still has another, like, he has to worry about surrounds at any given moment. His army is tanky, but it's not like 10 Archons tanky. So he needs these Disruptors to still get some hits, and he needs to avoid getting concaved on. Here we go. Disruptors are more on the front line than I would like. Some of them are going to survive the fight. The Stalkers, though, they blinked over to the side and got clobbered by the splash. But can Skillos actually continue with the momentum? Does he have enough reinforcements? That is the question. 5 Immortals still firing away. Disruptor shots still forcing the splits. Some of them actually hitting as well. Is Skillos going to take down the GOAT? Is the GOAT just overhyped and not any GOAT at all? I think that might be the case. Holy shit! Skillos! My dude!
What is this day?
What a day for GOAT in the gang. That's how you kill that GOAT right now.
It's been a roller
coaster.
It's been a real roller coaster for GOAT and the gang today. It's been an opportunity for the gang to step it up, to prove themselves worthy of the GOAT. I think, quite honestly, that the GOAT saw this as an opportunity to tell all the Protoss players, new patch, I don't care. You do not go greedy. You do not go Mass Phoenix. I'm going to show you with the Queens that they're still effective with the pseudo Queen Walk, I guess, with the Nidus. But yeah, the statement was more like, yeah, Protoss, go and expand faster and, you know, get a little bit greedier because we can't do shit.
Yes, truly, that was a game of Protoss being overpowered. I'm looking forward to the Team Liquid.
Wait, I'm not saying that Protoss is overpowered. I'm saying that with this new patch, it's even harder for, like, Zerg has no agency, basically, in deciding if we can take it to the late game or end early. You just can't end games, you know? If the Protoss wants to play late game, then we have to play late game. Nothing to do with balance. In the late game, Zerg might be even favored. But we have no agency, and that's awful, I think, because, yeah, we were already getting tired of the longer CVPs, and, yeah, I mean, thank you to Serral for trying to put a stop to all this, but it's not going to work out. Still a noble sacrifice from the GOAT to try and show the world not to do something that now will be done en masse.
So,
I
think CatZ is a little salty that his GOAT isn't so much a GOAT as it is maybe a little lamb.
No. This is what
lamb.
GOATs do. This is what GOATs do. Is they put out their neck out there to represent not just their team but also their race.
Yeah, I
put
think
a
the only
stop
thing
to
that,
the
you know,
evil.
your little lamb sheep's good for is, you know, warming up my players. Thanks,
Well,
man.
I love it because this is now a 50-50 on the most 50-50 map ever.
Yeah,
spawning.
yeah.
In the bottom right-hand side of the map. Last time he went for a 12 pull against Solar. This time around, he's playing a different style. It is Giorgio Armani for Goat and the gang. 2 wins for Armani in this league so far.
And the top
2
left.
losses as well in 3 games. 3 games, he has 2 wins and 2 losses. Don't ask me how.
Thank you for that. Top left, it is Ratata.
All right.
All right.
All right. Both players
this is
actually playing it safe. Interesting.
Yeah, no golds, no early pools. That is kind of funny. But it is weirdly 50-50. I think most people would look at the names and just immediately go with the Korean player. And maybe they're not really wrong either. That's fine. But it is Pride of Alteris, it's ZVZ, it's cross server. I mean, it's asking for chaos. And apparently this team league is also full of chaos. So Radita beating Armani is definitely not as weird.
No, I think it's actually a 50-50. Even on paper, I think Aligulak thinks it's a 50-50, if not slightly favored for Ratata, actually. Wardic, so who's got server preference on this?
Let me check. It's on Central.
So what does that mean? I'm sorry, I'm completely ignoring.
Oh, that's preference for the European, even though it's really not, but you know, it's fun.
All right. So we'll have to wait and see what the players do here, as both players expecting aggression, right? Like, this is what you do if you're expecting to soak up aggression. I think it's fair for Armani to expect the aggression from Ratata. And Ratata having the information on the 12 pull last time from Armani on Solar, also fair to expect aggression. So I can see why the players chose to play it safe here in this very important last match of the Clan.
Oh. I did want to look at the Aligulak because you said it might be even, and I was like, really? That is shocking to me, and I've definitely been wrong before. In this case, not so much. Armani has won the last 3 best ofs that they've played. Oh, so, right. Yeah, I mean, he's the favored. Raditz has only beat him twice out of 8 series, so it's not a lot of information, but there is very recent information. Well, okay, but I don't know what you're in. Just kidding. It's a year old.
Yeah, Aligulak predicts actually Ratata with 54% in this matchup over Armani. So Armani does have the win record, but form is in favor of Ratata.
COVID took away years, man. All right, I could have sworn it was still 2021. It is not. So that is a year old. So, I mean, a lot happens in a year, and of course, by a lot, I don't mean just natural improvement by either player. I also mean just the amount of games that are played. Obviously, people always criticize Aligulak for leaning too much to the Europeans because they're facing each other a ton, perhaps beating up on people. But yeah,
but is that even fair? I mean, seeing the results of the Europeans at Katowice and for the last few years, I think that there's tournaments that make it look like StarCraft is, better in Europe than it is in Korea, and there's tournaments where it makes it look like Korea is just dominant. So very difficult to say, but one thing we can say for sure is at the very top we have a very good mix of Europeans and Koreans. So, if you're beating or taking games from Serral or Raynor or Hero Marine, I don't think there's a big gap from that to their Korean equivalents.
I agree. I mean, we're pretty much on the same page. I think, CatZ, we know that. Yeah. But it doesn't change the publicity, I suppose, just that Koreans are going to win. They're the safer bet, even if they're not a guaranteed bet kind of situation. This is, speaking of bets, I guess, very risky play here from Radita, who's going 2 base into Aspire and +1 melee. So this is always kind of funny to me. I guess there are so many options. There are so many tricks in a Zerg player's arsenal in ZVZ nowadays that even though this seems like something that you would 100% have to be wary of Aspire with, because that could be a freaking lie on the front lines. Yeah, we still have situations where Radita's build just completely blindsides a Zerg and wins easily. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is Ratata is getting away with murder here for the most part because he's not gonna get attacked. I think Armani scouts the Roach Warren and maybe thinks this is like a two base Roach timing, which is not completely uncommon. It should have already been ready to hit him. So he's even made Roaches that are gonna be mostly useless because they don't have speed.
he doesn't have enough numbers to go on the counter offense. If he goes on the counter offense, they're just gonna get chewed by the Muta. So now he gets a scout. Thank the heavens, because now he can actually prepare for the Muta. But before that, it was looking grim.
Right. The worst case scenario for your boy is not scouting the Muse until they pop up on his mineral line.
Yeah.
The medium case scenario is him, like this scenario. Scouts it, but doesn't have anything to do about it. And I guess the best case is if he actually had a bunch of roaches like across the map right now, but that is not the case. So it's kind of medium, right? Let's see how the rest of the game plays out.
Yeah, and it's on the decent side of medium because he didn't make too many roaches on defense. So, not a huge investment there, and actually economically he's going to be just fine. So these roaches are still good to account for the links that Rattata has here, and this is still doable for either player for sure.
Ooh, +1 melee links into the natural and the man.
Oh no!
This would be so sick if I won this clan war.
Yeah, that would be no bueno. For us, we are looking for a victory here. It's been a roller coaster for Goat and the gang. I mean, maybe it would be karmic synergies here, as we didn't deserve that victory against Nate earlier today.
That's true.
And this time, I feel like we deserve this one. But I mean, it's not looking too great. That was a good run by 16 workers went down on the side of Giorgio.
Really, really good. The +1 melee, obviously kicking in a high gear, but just how open it was the best case scenario. This case, and now Rattata. I mean, you're always going to get the faster economy up. You're always going to have that map control when you are the Muta player. So this isn't uncommon to see kind of Armani having a turtle on 3 bases. We're not really necessarily worried about that, but we are worried about is him turtling kind of a little behind pacing. So he's a little bit later to infestors or something. He's a little bit later to enough roaches. He's a little bit later to lurkers. And then Rattata kind of explodes either with a Ling Baneling push, or maybe even goes up to his own hive, gets ultras, that type of situation. So basically, I don't think the game's going to end just because those Lings run by, right? But it does mean that Rattata should be feeling very confident.
Yeah, so another classic strategy that Rattata can go for here is Baneling Rambais, right? Like to try and just keep the economy of Armani down, because he will have map control. He can actually, with that map control, get himself an economic lead. Whereas Rattata is just going to go for army complexity. Those Muta eventually are going to be useless in straight up fights if he gets, 2 Lurker, Hydra, and Vipers, maybe Infestors mixed in at some point. Though not entirely necessary. So positioning really important for Armani. Here comes the first Baneling Rambai, and it is not gonna connect onto too much.
Kind of did
12
though.
actually workers, yeah. Yeah, it did.
And the +2 melee lings it into the main, so that's instantly another 4 drones maybe. Not quite. But the Mutas obviously still sharking around. They're not just looking for their own opportunity. They really are doing a great job of assessing the situation properly. This might not be the opportunity, my dude.
That ain't it.
Transfuses and spores.
Yeah, transfuses and spores are not it for sure. There's not another Baneling Rambai ready here. So again, Armani just has to slow things down. He has to re-drone. He is doing exactly that. Now Vipers will be out soon. So if Rattata overcommits to the Muta numbers, that could bite him a little bit. I don't really see much of a transition on his side, and that's what gives me hope at the moment.
Yeah, you're right. This is the more volatile matchup. That Mutaling Baneling. You take one bad fight, and you don't have this insane economy. You have the worst. You have the worst army.
Oh!
Whoa! That was exceptionally dangerous.
Yeah, those Vipers actually needed 10 more energy each, and all those Muta are, if not toast, at least heavily bruised. So now looking for the Vipers again. Rattata's got to be pretty careful, as this Baneling Rampai is going to be deflected perfectly by Armani. The Lynx, however, are a different story, as 4 Lynx do what 20 Banelings couldn't.
That parasitic bomb was weird. It was ahead of the Muta for a while. Anyways, yeah, Rattata is, I think with that kind of 1-2, his Baneling's not working, his Muta's not working, I think is also aware that he might not have, a game-winning situation. He can't just bulldozer over Armani. And he needs to take advantage of what he does have, which is a stronger economy and a little bit of wiggle room yet still. Because Armani, while he can totally deflect things right now defensively, moving out is a total other problem. So, the contain is still effective, but if Rattata kept just running his head into the wall, then that's when we worry.
Yeah, and Lurkers are going to be really good at absorbing shots here from the Banelings in days to come. So, Oh no! How you
Yeah.
gotta do that?
Yeah.
And
That's
heavy
the stuff.
misclick there, lag, ping, obviously coming into play.
He's also jet lagged from a tournament that he went to just yesterday.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Quite clearly, as the lurkers now are going to start deflecting this link and bailing aggression quite easily. Now it's time for Armani to start looking for a fourth base and continue to kind of establish superiority as far as the army composition and just trading effectively. This game has to drag out a long while in order for Armani to stand any chance. But it's looking like he might stabilize here. The Muta are still a threat, but with the Vipers out, it should be all right.
I love his scouting units. He's going to go for that 5?
That's good.
Whoa, that's actually really dangerous, though. The Queens do have a lot of transfuse, but fortunately for me, they were not in the equation. Gonna have to split at least 3 mutas, actually. Anything at all would be helpful. And hey, if you get a Viper, then by all means, not gonna get the Viper, though.
Yeah, I feel those muta to explode.
The Ultra's Cavern's only just now started, so if Armani did kind of YOLO across the map, I would be worried. But, of course, Armani doesn't know.
YOLO, no.
Yeah, there's no way he would know that's an opportunity. This would be, if anything, an opportunity for him to throw what is still a very playable game, because he says, oh, maybe that's enough.
Yeah, an opportunity. And on the side of Rattata, Ultras are also an opportunity for him to throw.
Yes, they are. Let's not kid ourselves. We all agree.
Yep.
Armani's he's doing so close to perfect on these family defenses. Like the wall on the right side and the queens always holding with specifically a lurker. Because I guess with +2 melee, if it's only queens, they could even be in trouble. But like a wonderful wall, I gotta give him credit here. And that's also going to confuse the Ultras, right? The Ultras are gonna run their head into the wall, take some damage, decide, I guess I can't, and then have to be restricted to only 2 attack paths instead of 3 or 4.
Yeah, I actually quite love that. I've never seen that Evo Chamber wall, but it's very good strategically. I think from Armani, he has to play a slow-paced game, so just closing off avenues of attack is perfect. He only needs 1 extra base at a time, and that's exactly what he is going for. So I love the approach here. It's slow and methodical, and so far, it looks to be doing all right. Not amazing. This Muta is still finding damage.
Yeah, so Armani, he's lost so many drones. Plus, he's not really taking all that many engagements that if we were talking about a better game, just put it that way, his resources lost would be much more favorable. But they've only recently gotten favorable, I think, with the recent bailing run by and the mutas dying. As before, it was like only a 2,000 resource difference, so that ain't it for the lurker defender. Oh my god, Pen is putting his light on. 2 seconds to go. Please, for the love of God, wait for that next time.
Oh man, that was actually really good for Rattata. He's gonna get a cleanup on all of these lurkers here. A single overseer was at the front.
Well, that is the problem.
Yeah, that is the thing.
Actually bust them.
Nice. It's a hold.
Spore crawlers. I was talking about this on my stream. It's funny, the ripple effect from something that was changed over 8 years ago at this point. Heart of the Swarm Mass Muta made the spore crawlers get a buff against bio air, and that's what affects this dynamic.
Oh,
it's like,
I don't mind this. Hello?
Please, no.
Yeah, run into the lurkers, please. That's always good. But yeah, spore crawlers are so toxic. They make this matchup so toxic because you can do what Armani is doing. And as much as I hate playing against this style, and as much as I hate playing this style, I love that this style exists right now because I mean, it's the only way to recover from this point on. And it's so difficult to reach.
You and Dark love that this style exists, don't you?
Yeah.
Extend those games.
Dark, absolutely great on that.
All right, so Rattata's going to try and bust open an avenue. The thing is that the forward attack looks really tempting for Rattata because it's an open space. You're not choked in. So you really hope that you could take kind of like one lurker out after another. But if it's going to be protected like it is by the static defense, that's where it's worth it. Ooh, Jesus.
Yeah, some of these roaches actually moving into the ultras, but the ultras were somewhat merciful. Yeah, they weren't attacking all that well. Banelings actually are going to be spent, a lot of them, to break the Evo chambers.
I don't actually mind that. Rattata is on 6 spaces. His goal is starting to mine out. We got to keep track of that. But just literally to open up the pathway, I actually like it.
Yeah, but the thing is, Armani can just close that pathway right after, and if you didn't have a follow-up, then, that was not at all cost-effective, so... I did not like it, but hey, there's no creep connecting there, so there's actually going to be a small opening there for a little while.
Yes, you're right about that. I like it for its potential in a very different scenario, which is Rattata following up with something.
Yeah.
But of course, 3 evolution chambers really not all that expensive to create. This seems like a questionable fight. I don't know if Rattata really knows how many lurkers are there. Lurkers certainly finished up in the high ground, and that is not a place to go. I could see how he was winning until those lurkers finished, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the spores on this left-hand side, I think Rattata has identified are not as well spread and not as protective as on the other side. A couple of ultras are gonna wobble into their deaths as per usual.
Yes. That's the thing, is that the longer this game goes on and the more that it is just pure ultra not doing anything, of course the worse it's gonna get for Rattata. Now it's the resources lost. But yeah, he's almost double. Not quite there, but he's gonna probably get to double. When he was doing such a great job earlier, making sure not to lose too much. He is currently doing still a stellar job as far as expanding, and he also just deflected a single lurker for attempted harassment. But even with his fantastic economy, the way you lose is by running this army into lurkers.
Without a shadow of a doubt. There's one single lurker here and 3 Evo chambers, and actually Rattata's gonna think better of it, even though there isn't the extra Evo chamber there to protect things as 2 queens get repositioned. Baneling's now trying to go in. That ain't it. No. I like it.
I think he's just looking for the distraction more so. He's going to go in here. Overseers are available, and the lurkers aren't quite tearing these ultras down. Some of them low, but not dead. And that hatchery is going to go down. Rattata's spending a lot of money to do that, though. But he also got 22 drones.
Yeah, he does get 22 drones with 3 Banelings on the other side. As the Lynx were kind of running into a mid-grinder themselves, towards the end, there are just 3 Banelings sneak in and kill all the drones there. But overall, I mean, more cost efficiency going the way of Armani. And tempo's starting to slip away from Rattata, who doesn't seem interested in really transitioning, and that gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah, he definitely should have went to lurkers earlier. He tried to go in for some Vipers. I think he just noticed there wasn't a lot of lurkers at that point, but they're just not in place. Beautiful. They reposition so pretty quickly. He's starting to identify that he needs to. He cannot brute force this. Again, without SAG defense, he might have been able to, but with it, creates a bit of a maze for the Ultras. Can't let the Overseers and his own Vipers through, because he did add Vipers. That's the point I was trying to make. He did add some Vipers. Would have been fabulous if they actually abducted or blinding clouded some of these lurker balls. They never got in.
Yeah, indeed. Like the Vipers can really help a lot in breaching this type of situation, or just coming in with like a ton of Overseers if you want to really kamikaze. Gonna get a hatchery here with the Banelings as well as a few more drones. So Rattata really still trying to keep whatever tempo he can up. These Ultras have no business going in here, as one of those will fall.
He is finally getting to his own lurkers, though, so all we gotta do is get to lurkers. He is taking his sweet time, spending his money. Please get some Hydras. Not just for the safety, if Armani decides, you know what, whatever, I'm gonna go for it. Which, again, he's not gonna do anytime soon. But just so that he can continue attacking. But then he gets 7 Ultras.
Yeah, he's getting the Hydra upgrade right now. I wonder if it's too little too late, as now Rattata is starting his own transition into Hydra Lurker. But I mean, as far as the resources lost tab, we are something like 10k ahead, so... And these Ultras are probably not going to be cost effective anymore at all either, so... No. Rattata is going to need like at least a base up on Armani, if not 2. Towards
yeah, at least. And as this game stretches farther, it's less guaranteed that Rattata gets the extra bases, because suddenly it comes down to you're fighting over the same base. And that's something that Armani would win, 100%. Rattata still has the resources to do a full-on transition into his own 16 Lurkers, 7 Vipers, whatever. But he has to start the process. He doesn't have that much money just to instantly get it. And it's not really starting all that quickly. So, you know, it is worrying for me.
For sure. I think that Rattata found some success early on, but he has really elongated this for long enough where I kind of like Armani's position a little bit better at this point. So we'll see what ends up happening here. I think it's still definitely anyone's game, as the upgrades, at least Rattata already had been working on the Carapace, so he's only going to have to catch up an additional 2 upgrades. And then he's going to be all caught up, right? And then it's just a matter of, can you secure the extra bases to make up for the fact that you've been losing so many more resources up until this point.
That's an insane amount of lurkers Armani has. 21.
Jordan.
I mean, if they all burrow underneath the blinding cloud, that'd be great. But assuming they don't do that, even if they did, that wouldn't encompass all 21 lurkers. When they get across the map, they will win the game. So, Rattata.
Yeah, but I don't like even that Armani is moving across the map right now, actually. Like, I think that you don't move out. I think that you just have to identify that you have had the economic lead for now. I am not a huge fan of this on the side of Armani. This is going to open up the grounds for the Ultras to potentially do something.
I mean, it wasn't the most tactful use of his lurkers, to be fair, but the Ultras don't have any overseers with them, so even a couple of leftover lurkers are going to apparently hold the line. I do think Armani... Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where maybe I do both offense and defense better than you, or maybe you do both offense and defense better than me, so let's play it safe, let's pull back.
Yeah, what's weird to me is Armani already kind of had his win condition set, and this offers an opportunity for Rattata to get rid of his Ultras somewhat efficiently, whereas before he didn't really have any way, right? So I think that even he could have taken the fight with the Ultras on more open grounds and on defense, and that would have been much better for him without those spores and whatnot, right? Like, and he could have traded much better than he could have ever traded on this side of the map. And yeah, oh, Jesus H.
I love how initially it looked like the Hydras might be the winning force. You know, they were like sniping down the Ultra, and then they were just starting to spread out, and it's like, oh, never mind. That was a pretty expensive loss for both sides. I love your point, though. Absolutely. The Ultras are actually used effectively in their sacrifice. They were buying time, I think is most important for the lurkers to actually finish, and they get on the front side of the map. Now, blinding clouds go down, making things very awkward, and that's going to effectively stall out the push.
Oh, but like now I like Rattata's.
Yeah, he's on the right composition. He's going to the right place. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rattata.
No, you should be thinking Armani. That was not the move. For sure. He had his win condition set. Obviously, it's easier to work with more information that we're working with because we can see the units loss tab and know that Armani has been trading super cost efficiently, but he should have a good sense for how effectively he's been trading. So really not the move to move out there.
Yeah, again, never got to double the resources lost, to be fair, but, you know, obviously he has been taking better trades. Very good lurker of Ducks, just because Rattata doesn't have his own Vipers. That seemed kind of a guaranteed, not to discredit Armani, just I think Rattata did identify he didn't have any more Vipers, and he's now fixing that problem. And once he has his own Vipers, we have that classic stalemate where neither one can really break each other's lurker lines.
Yeah, and this is a very extra interesting game because both players are kind of known for their aggression, in particular Rattata. So, you know, I'm like, why aren't there Vipers? I'm like, does this guy make Vipers? I haven't seen him make many Vipers in his career, to be honest. So let's hope that he is not very comfortable with them.
I guess. I don't feel like I watched that many. Well, obviously Dark has changed the factor here, but I mean, there used to be kind of that funny, like, all the Zerg players in Korea are all Roach boys that Maynard would go with,
for sure.
Especially when Sue was playing. So it's kind of funny that I'm hearing the European is not going to be the better late game player. Tanzo of Ducks does seem to ultimately trade. Wait, who actually lost more Vipers?
I'm not sure.
Oh, it was Rattata. Oh, for sure. I just looked.
Nice.
Yeah, 8 Vipers went down. Some of those are from earlier, to be fair. But yeah, he lost. Not
oh, be careful! Why?
Shit,
Why?
That is a bold
shit.
move. The Vipers weren't actually involved from the get-go. Blinding Cloud does come down to kind of save the day, and 20 drones have been lost for Rattata behind this. He actually got harassed on his very, very important mining bases, and he's almost lost his left side base. So that was a bit bold from Armani. Combined with everything else, it might still be okay.
Yeah, not too bad actually. Like it looked really bad because the Vipers, like you said, weren't there yet. When the Vipers arrive, a lot better. And if the Vipers had synced up with the attack, even better. But yeah, unnecessary still from my perspective, but it works out. I'll take it. And yeah, Lynx, okay, bro.
Yeah, he's hoping, because he found the third base undefended coming in from, I think, kind of the middle, I want to say. I don't know actually how Ling's gotten the third, but there are still lurkers. Now, that does deny the Lings a chance to utilize the fact that they're cracklings. So it's obviously a good use of lurkers, but I would also throw out there that does mean there's like 4 lurkers not involved in some of the fights. Is that super important? Maybe not, depending on how the Vipers are used. But can it be important? Yeah, sure.
For sure, for sure. A ton of changelings here as well. Unfortunately, they're clumped, so they're all gonna be spotted and taken down.
Actually. Oh, he's gonna get that. Oh, he's gonna get that. There's no detection on the left side. And Rattata, I was gonna say, actually has like 6 lurkers defending his bases, so I'm gonna bring that point up. It's actually Rattata who is less on the front lines at any given moment.
Okay, and Armani is actually pushing on forward. I think that if Rattata chooses to defend some of these bases, this is actually pretty decent for Armani. You gotta be careful to go into a fortified position, but if he finds positions where he can siege, and then Rattata follows him into those positions, this is fantastic for Armani. This is a great move right here. There aren't too many lurkers at the moment. Still a lot of overseers available on the side of Giorgio. And indeed, Rattata's gonna try to breach into this, which is good for me.
Yeah, unless the Vipers are misused, which they are not really being misused. Rattata now has lost his bank, by the way, so as he loses his bases, it is not easy to replace. Rattata is letting this game slip through his fingers unless he can get one hell of a fight. The army supplies are actually still in favor of the green Zerg, but yeah, the Viper count's also in favor of Rattata now as well. That's what gives me hope, but he's down to 6 lurkers versus 11, so can the Vipers win the day? Or is it actually going to be the Hydras or Romani kind of coming in clutch, killing all my Vipers?
I will have to wait and see. I mean, he's going into potentially spores now, which is a problem for the Vipers. You got to be careful not to misuse those. And on the other side, Armani may be looking to pounce onto another base of Rattata. Now gonna think better of it and maybe just go for the defense. Lurkers are being morphed. I'm not sure if they can be spotted right now by the creep. It doesn't look like it. So no opportunity to pounce from Armani.
Nope, and that is a very important base to the left side. I mean, top right was also important, but this is now even more important. Rattata has no mining. If he doesn't win with this fight, he's not going to win this game. Armani, I mean, he can't exactly remax super easily because he doesn't have gas. So there's that.
Oh, man.
Actually, hold on. Can I get the Hopium back up here? Can someone hand me a tank?
Looking pretty good for Rattata here.
Wait a second. 7 lurkers to 12. Rattata's still in the lead there. Vipers have evened up, but Rattata's Vipers are so injured. One parasitic bomb is going to kill all of them.
Yeah.
Hydra's catching the tail end, definitely going to snipe them. Rattata gets a powerful blow, but is it powerful enough?
Yeah, it's one of those rare occasions where parasitic bomb would actually be better than abduct at this point, because all of those are so bruised. Whereas Armani has very healthy looking Vipers on the other side of the map, so he has to put those to good use. Finally, the Circlings, for the first time in 28 minutes, are gonna find something of consequence.
Hey, they were great the first 8 minutes, excuse me.
True.
Yeah, these outlying bases are going to be difficult, especially if Armani can't actually replace his lurkers. So his mineral count looks fantastic. That gives Armani fans a lot of confidence. But his gas actually still limits them to almost a roughly equal situation. That is by far the most important thing. And besides that, really close on lurkers, even on Vipers. 6 more Hydras, that's not usually going to matter in a ZVZ like this.
Yeah, the Vipers have been smartly healed as well from Rattata, so they're not in as much danger. This is likely to just come down to one massive engagement, and Rattata's angling to deny another base from Armani. Armani with his own Circlings, but those are kind of like really shitty by comparison. They don't really have the melee upgrades. Still, they're gonna find a base here by the looks of it, so making some use of those minerals.
Yeah, they're gonna get a cancel, I think. They don't have any upgrades, as you said, but that's a fool.
Uh-oh.
No cancel, as there's a lot more going down. Vipers going down on each side, but Rattata losing so much more. I mean, he was right to focus on the main engagement, but unfortunately, the main engagement went wrong for him.
Yeah, now the Vipers can make work here, as Armani is going to do a nice blinding cloud onto all of these lurkers. That's going to be a good opportunity for him to kind of pick off a few of these units. Overseer, only one single Overseer on the side of Rattata. If that could be abducted, the lurkers could do wonders here, but this is looking good for Armani.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he should win this game. Even 100%, I'd say maybe 90%, just in case something goes really wrong.
90%.
Yeah, but it really should not be a chance for Rattata to win. If he still had 7 Vipers, that is totally a different story. But down to 1 Viper that is going to get abducted. There's not much he can do. He can't. It's even hard for him to escape.
We go on the chase. Chase him down. Chase him down.
Yeah, you can't really escape. There's not even enough Hydras to turn around and kill these Vipers.
Did he catch a glimpse of it? He didn't.
This
so
is...
he sees the Hydra. He sees the direction of the Hydra, so maybe he could have turned around, but no.
No,
Right,
Rattata's actually the one turning around.
Oh, I don't like that from Rattata.
No, that's not going to do anything. He's going to run into... I mean, he gets a fantastic Blinding Cloud, to be fair. The one Viper kind of came in on the side, but it doesn't matter. Oh, he was so close. Oh.
Giorgio!
So close. He had such a strong start.
Armani!
Mostly, I just feel bad for Rattata. It's like, it was a great game from him, and he was so close to getting that victory, but I know he's actually going to take that pretty hard. I'm sad.